Hello, 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 New Haven, and welcome back to WNHH Community Radio. I'm Lucy Gellman, and this is Arts Respond, the collaboration between WNHH and the Arts Council of Greater New Haven. I'm extremely excited today to welcome Diane Brown and Patricia Adger on the first Friday. I want to mention this. It is the first Friday of Women's History Month. Um, and I love that we go from Black History Month to Women's History Month. And I have two extremely powerful Black women who I know have been mentors to me during my time in the community and to so many. It's true. And to just so many women, like probably hundreds, probably thousands of women and men. We won't forget them either in the community. So I'm really excited to have both of you here today. So we're going to talk about the legacy of the Elm City Freddy Fixer Parade because earlier this week on Monday around 10:30 in the morning, so I'm like getting going on my Monday, I have my coffee, and there was a message that popped into my inbox that made my heart a little bit sad. And it announced that this year there won't be an Elm City Freddy Fixer Parade, at least not in the way that that people know and understand the parade that we've seen in years past. And so I'm wondering if one or both of you can just situate us in that moment and that decision. And then we're going to talk about the very rich history and legacy of the parade and sort of what we can expect and hope for going forward.
Sure. Di and I sit on the board of directors for the Elm City Freddy Fixer Parade. And unfortunately, I don't think people realize sometimes how much the parade actually cost. So to put on this parade, even for that 1.3 miles, which we've reduced from going all the way downtown to just the 1.3 miles, is approximately $100,000. Now we realized we were aware maybe about a couple of months ago that there was some change in legislation that would require us to pay the full cost of the police overtime. And we had known from previous years that that could go from anywhere from $60 to $65,000. Unfortunately for us, we knew that it would be financially just irresponsible for us to go ahead and go on with a parade that we knew we were unable to pay the police overtime. Now, granted, there is a provision in that legislation that says you can appeal, but why would you go and put on an event and a performance that you know that you cannot pay for and then hope in an appeal that they'll reduce that cost and hope that that reduction in cost is something that we can actually pay for? So that's what our decision was based on.
And was this something that, did this come out of hours and hours of real discussion and looking inward? Because I know that for all of New Haven, but especially in the community where the Elm City Freddy Fixer is based, it has this beautiful route down Dixwell Avenue, beautiful and historic route down Dixwell Avenue. That is one of the hardest hit neighborhoods or multiple neighborhoods in New Haven during the pandemic. And that parade is joy. It's like a family reunion. There are people yelling and dancing on the sidewalks. It's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, there was hours and hours of discussion. We didn't want to do it. Di, you want to step in on that?
Yeah, I want to say that, first of all, thank you for having us, Lucy. And I want to say it was a very difficult decision to make, but it was practical. And like Patricia said, there was really no other alternative, especially in part of that language reads, and that new city legislation is that the actual city of New Haven could actually sue an organization for not fulfilling the full obligation. So if we were to have the parade, as Patricia said, and then we came back and appealed, say if the overtime and police costs came to $65,000 and we appealed it and we lost, losing meant that we would have to pay it all. It was not just about us. Why would we put this historic traditional parade in jeopardy of losing its 501c3 status in its name because it's being sued by the city of New Haven? So we had to also look at the legal ramifications it would cost us if we went forward with that. A lot of people, as Patricia said, they don't understand not just the money, but the time and the energy And running this parade, it's a responsibility. And there are times when Patricia and I both sit and talk, we debate, we agree to disagree, but we understand what this parade means to the community. So sometimes tough decisions have to be made when you're in leadership, but that's why we're hoping hard that this time around people will really come to the table and say, I have ideas, I can help fundraise, I can help do things. So going forward, we could be in a better position. I just want to add, it's not about any other parade, how much money other people have, how much money another festival has. It's about us as a people supporting our own. We need to step up to the plate and support our own. We want the parade. The parade should happen every year. It is a legacy. So we should be supporting that for ourselves and for our children and for the future. So as we go forward, we'll talk a little bit about the festival that we're going to have, which was going to happen on the Freddy Fixer weekend. So even though we're not going to have a parade, we're going to remain positive and look forward to our festival happen this year. And then going forward, we're going to look positive into the future for a beautiful parade in 2023.
So I can't wait. I want to talk about that, but I also want to go into the Wayback Machine and talk about the origins of the Freddy, because I love that this is really an act of community joy that grew out of a neighborhood cleanup. And when some people hear the word cleanup, they think about picking up trash by the side of the highway, which is not joyful. And this is something that really celebrates New Haven. So I'm wondering if, Patricia, let's jump to you because I saw that smile. And if you can talk a little bit to listeners who maybe don't know the history of the parade, where it started and how it's grown since then.
Well, I was smiling at you because of all your enthusiasm. So you make me smile when you have that much enthusiasm. The parade started, as I said, back in 1963, and it was Dr. Fred Smith who was one of the organizers. There are many, many organizers. One was Miss Carnegie, who, by the way, is the sister of Justice Constance Motley Baker. So that's a bit of a historical point there too. But anyway, how this all started was that Fred Smith wanted the community to support everybody in the community together in a collective sort of project. Now, this project didn't only include cleaning up, just picking up on the street. It included going door to door and finding out from each neighbor what they needed to be done inside their property and outside their property. So a lot of the fixing up happened inside the homes. And Fred Smith was really kind of before his time because he also looked at the neighborhood in terms of environmental, uh, what's that word I'm looking for?
Green space,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, exactly, for the green space and all of that other stuff. So he tried to incorporate all of that in the culture of the neighborhood within this cleanup. And what would happen was after the cleanup went on for an entire year, the parade was a celebration and a culmination of all the work that had been done that year.
I love that. Diane, did you want to add anything?
No, I just, of course, born and raised in New Haven, and as a little girl, my mother was very involved in the community, and I clearly remember my mom going to Freddy Fixer meetings with, God rest him, Mr. Ed Grant.
Yes.
Pulled my mother and some other people in from New Hallville to get this parade, going and to build some momentum. So I remember the parade not just as watching the parade, but I remember my mother being a community activist, being very much involved in the Freddy Fixer and just watching it grow over the years. And as you said, a lot of people don't know the legacy of the parade is far more than just a parade. As Patricia said, it was a celebration after we had done work, and then continued to be a celebration of the culture, the heritage in the neighborhoods, the Black neighborhoods in New Haven. And so part of us going into 2023, going to be looking for ways that we can instill that pride and that enthusiasm back into the community, teaching younger people. So like I said, we're going to be looking for volunteers and other people to really work with us to build that enthusiasm back.
And it's
I,
interesting because, as Diane said, as a little girl, because the first parade for me was I was almost 3 years old, and I remember actually being at that parade, and my mom taking me to that, and taking me to subsequent parades, and then, as of course, when we became teenagers, how we would all buy new outfits, save all our money to buy new outfits to go out and celebrate the community in that way. So
oh,
it's actually an honor for both Diane and I because we're born and raised here, and I don't think I would ever thought that I would be sitting on a committee to help
mm,
put on a parade because as a kid you're just so amazed that wow, this is so great, and now 60 years later we're now a part of it.
Yes.
yeah. Well, I so that was actually going to be my next question. Your memories of the parade, both as little girls and also as teenagers. Diane, you and I have talked about how you really shared your mother with the community. She was
Mhm.
many people's mother, and so I'd love to hear from you a little bit more of um, your memories of the parade long before you were involved with parade leadership.
Um, so at one point, like Patricia said, the parade went from, and it would be very interesting to know that they pay police overtime. That's something that I thought about. But anyway, there was a time when the parade um, came down Shelton Avenue and went all the way downtown. As time went on, like Patricia said, the parade route was cut short, not because of Yale, not because of all these other things that people think. It was cut short because the inability to pay for even a percentage of the police overtime at that point, because you have to have police officers to cover that entire parade route. And so as time went on, parade route was shortened. But when I was a little girl, I mean, I hear different people will tell you that the parade started at different points and ended at different points. At one point, I believe that it just went around Gulf Street and centered back. When I was a little girl, it was that I remember it was started at Bassett Street School, came down Shelton Avenue, and went all the way downtown New Haven. Now, I was born on Division Street, and so my house was right next to Community Baptist Church on the corner of Division and Shelton Avenue. So all the churches on Dixwell Avenue would let out early so people can go home or people can come out and sit and watch the parade. So as a little girl, I remember my little Freddy Fixer kid sneakers, and me and my mother would dress me and my sister alike. Patricia and her sister were probably dressed alike. We talk about that too. You kind of get dressed alike, and you go down to Grant's or Alexander's or wherever you go, and you get your Freddy Fixer outfit, and you were cute. You know what I'm saying? And for that day, you're on your best behavior. And if you were lucky, your mom or someone in the family was able to buy you a little something off the little man, little monkey, or something off the little carts that were going down the street. But when I was a little girl, the parade was bigger than life. And when I look back at it now, the last parade Patricia and I organized in 2019 was the last biggest parades when the parade made a comeback. We were able to actually see, after all many years of the parade going downhill, 2019, all the hard work that Patricia and I and volunteers that were with us at the time, we saw a certain surge of energy, and it was hopeful. We saw a nice parade, and for the first time in a long time, we had bands and we had different things. For a while, the school system had taken the bands out. There was some, random acts of violence over a couple of years. So there was a lot of things that went on. But for once, we saw the parade, and that parade went off without a hitch. No violence, no nothing. It was a beautiful parade. But as a little girl, I would stand on that corner, and anybody that was somebody, any kind of Black organization in New Haven was in that parade. Churches, NAACP, all the high school majorettes were in, the school bands were participating. It was just a little bit of everybody, the Elks, the Eastern Stars, anybody, like I said, that was somebody in the Black community was in that parade. And it was a proud moment to stand on that corner and to see people that look like you drive by, some people that you knew, some people that you didn't know. But it was a sense of pride. And one thing that I clearly remember, I'm going to end with this, is as we got a little older, my mother would allow me and my sister now to kind of walk down Dixell Avenue, Shelton down Dixell by yourself. For the first few years, you had to stay right there in the corner with your mother and your aunt and the church people. But as you got a little older, like Patricia said, a little teenager, all right, now I'm gonna let you go down here, but you better be back here at such and such a time. And one thing that I remember, I clearly remember, I remember going down Shelton and Dixell, and all of the churches, all of the church ladies would be sitting on the curb in front of their church with their church hats on. And I remember that. And every church along the way, those ladies with those hats, many of them, wore white, and they'd sit out there and them hats would be sitting there. And me and my sister would just walk by. And but that and the Elks and the Masons, I remember them, the black men with the white aprons, they would be stepping, and they would be cool. And, there was just certain little things that you remember. Uh, those just certain memories that I have of the Freddie Fixer Parade. Is a prideful moment, and it still is.
And it's just one thing I wanted to piggyback on that Diane said. We actually got involved again in 2015 for the parade. I got involved because Diane wouldn't stop calling me. I had previously worked with the St. Patrick's Day parade. I was actually their parade coordinator for 3 years. And Diane had known I had experiences in a parade. So she called me no less, no lie, 10 times, just please, Patricia, can you come? Just help us out. And that's how I actually ended up getting involved in 2015. But I do want to say, because you did mention the last parade that we had, I ran into Captain Charles Grady, who hadn't been in a parade probably in 10 years. And he came up to me, and I was so proud of all the work that the volunteers and everybody did, because he came up to me and said, reminds me from when I was younger, and you guys have really brought this parade back to what I remember it to be. So I felt a lot of pride on that day.
And I remember in 2019, people kept saying to me, "This is like a family reunion." That's what I heard throughout the day when I was reporting and talking to folks. And of course, we didn't know what was coming. We didn't know that this thing called COVID-19 was on the horizon. And Diane, I promised you I would keep it upbeat, but I have to ask what the past 2 years have been like, because we're living in this time that in some ways has exposed injustices and fractures in our own community and across the country that have existed forever. And in some ways really has been unprecedented in the way that it has moved stuff online as opposed to in the physical world. So I'd like a little bit of insight about, just what the past 2 years have been like for you. Because, for instance, I know that it becomes impossible to have a beautiful big gala in a physical room when you're worried about giving someone else COVID.
Well, we did have one. Um, we had a virtual gala. I believe that was in
Last year.
2021. President and secretary at the time put together a virtual gala, because we had every year, since Patricia and I have been board members. Well, Patricia was once president and I was vice president. We've had a gala, and so for 2 years we had a gala at the Omni Hotel, and they worked with us because, of course, there was COVID and we could not have the gala. So we are slated to have a gala this year, September 10th, 2022, at the Omni Hotel. Hopefully, COVID will stay at bay and we'll be able to have live. But it's been a little difficult to move forward in planning with, as you know, anything in your personal or your professional life or community because of COVID and being safe. But Letitia and I had continued to conversate about what the parade would look like. We were hoping to have a parade 2022. And then the thing hit about the legislation, which was beyond us. There was nothing we could really do about that. But we quickly turned that around into positive thoughts and said, okay, let's get ourselves together and let's get the community together. We've been getting a lot of calls and momentum over the last week since the announcement of people saying, well, how can I get involved? What can I do? And we're hoping that those individuals that reached out and more could come forward and make some type of a commitment to work with us to build a parade for 2023. But we're both positive and we know that there will be a parade in 2023, barring COVID. We will have a parade in 2023. Like I said, it takes a year to plan a parade and then some. So we are going to begin next week as a board. We will meet and get ourselves together. And then from there, we need a little bit more time. We're going to announce a series of community meetings, some of which will be by Zoom. And maybe as we move forward into the summer, we could even have some outside at the New Stetson Library where people can feel safe. And we're going to begin to not just plan for the gala in September, but we're going to begin to plan for the parade. And just again, I'll announce June 4th from 2 to 6 p.m. at Stetson Branch Library. We'll be celebrating its grand opening. And we're doing that as a part of our Dixwell Festival. I don't want to get ahead of Arts and Ideas, but Dixwell Arts and Ideas does neighborhood festivals. So our festival, Dixwell Festival this year will be sponsored by, of course, Arts and Ideas and the New Haven Free Public Library because it's celebrating the grand opening of Stetson. And it'll also be in part sponsored by the Freddy Fixer Parade Committee. So those three institutions, we will be having a big celebration on Dixwell Avenue, outside on the Q House Plaza, June 4th from 2 to 6 p.m. It's going to be live music. I can't give everything away, but it's going to be a little bit of everything, something for everybody. I think everyone's going to be pleased. I can tell you that there will be a fashion show. Just give you a little Donald Carter will do a fashion show. I think that's the only little thing I'm going to give you. And then Arts and I will be making an announcement in about another week, so I don't disrespect them and get ahead of them. Once they make their announcement, then we will be all out, all over the community, letting people know about the celebration. And again, this celebration was going to be a part of the Freddy Fixer weekend. It was going to be the festival on the 4th, and the parade was going to be on the 5th. So all is not lost, being the fact that we will get together. We will be able to get together as a community on June 4th. And of course, Freddy Fixer will be there. They're part sponsor, and we'll be looking for volunteers and donations and people to sign up. And that's going to be a part of what's going to happen on the day. So the community could stay tuned. We look forward to seeing everybody on June.
Awesome.
And that,
And
yeah, that was one of the things during the pandemic, fundraising. You know, in our community, like you said, had been affected more than almost the Black community had been affected more than anybody else. And when people are worried about what they're going to eat the next day or how they're going to survive because now they don't have jobs, because let's face it, most of us didn't have jobs that enabled us to work from home. You know, the service industry, you had to show up. And that was another concern. They still had to show up in the service industries and be exposed to the pandemic. But in order to put food on their table, they had to show up. So it wasn't a situation where we would have gone out and asked people for any funding at that time.
yeah. So I want to ask, who are you hoping to have come to the table? Diane, you mentioned that people have been calling, which is great because this announcement comes a couple weeks after Adrian Jefferson stood in front of the Q House, the Director of Cultural Affairs for the city, and announced the New Haven's new cultural equity plan, which is the first one for a municipality in the state. And the way I see it, as a reporter who's followed this plan as it's come out, is this is exactly the kind of event that a cultural equity plan should be behind supporting, because it is in the community, it's supporting Black folks, it's supporting thriving Black neighborhoods, and it's supporting joy, and and it's supporting something that maybe there is a little more need for support to make the financial infrastructure easier.
Hmm.
And so I'd love to know, who both of you are hoping to have at the table or come to the table as stakeholders as you build up not just this festival this year, but next year's parade?
Well, me personally, of course, Adrian's on my list, and I sit on the board of several arts organizations, and all those well and good. We do have some individuals that we can't name right now that have stepped up to the plate. People that look like us that have stepped up to the plate. And while anyone is welcome to come and help, um, we welcome anyone, whether donation, whether it's your time, whether it's your energy, whether you have a skill set. But for me personally, I would just like to see the Black community um, take more stake in this. I think for me, it's sure it's about finances, but if your heart is in something and you're dedicated to something, you're committed to something, sometimes other things follow. The money follows, the donations follow. So part of my role is going to be to get the community back to the table, and let's get involved, and let's own this parade, and let's make it our own, and let's say never again. This is not going to happen again. We're going to be there. We're going to see to it that this happens. To be honest with you, Patricia and I have been trying for the last several years, since she was the president and I served as her vice president. We have been trying to get younger people to take the leadership role of this parade, and it hasn't been that successful. Um, I don't think people realize it's not just a name. You just can't say I'm the president of the parade, I'm the vice president of the parade. It takes work, it takes leadership. And we have been trying to find individuals younger than us that we can put in those positions, get voted into those seats, and say, we're here to help you. We are the board. We are not supposed to be running the parade. I want to make that clear to anyone that's out there. The only reason why we're doing it is because there's no one else to do it. If we walked away, we don't know what's going to happen. Her and I talked about this. I mean, I have a full life. I still work full time. Letitia's retired from the police department, but trust me, she's still working full time. So we both are full time, and we both have families, but we have given so much of our life for this over the last several years. And while we don't mind to do it, it would really be nice to be able to pass the baton to some younger people. So over the last few days, we've gotten a few phone calls from some younger people. And we're hoping that those people will come to the table and will basically say, yes, I want to learn this. I don't know, Patricia, I'm stepping out there too far, but we just named a new president. And I guess I'll let Patricia let you know who has stepped up now to be the new Elm City Freddie Fixer Parade president. I'll let Patricia do that on.
Okay. Well, you see, it's so funny. You see how Di and I work together. We bounce off of each other so well, even when we're mad at each other, because God knows that last week we have probably cussed each other out more often than not. But one of the things I did want to add that Di said was that the bottom line is this: we're looking to be self-sufficient. If any officials want to come and help us out, we welcome that help. But we are no longer going to beg anybody to come and outside of the Black community to help us raise these funds. And this is what we want. We want to be a self-sufficient parade that could do this with the help of other people. Now, don't get me wrong. We do want grants and donations from businesses and industries that make money on these days that we have the parade, because up and down this route, we bring about 5,000 to 6,000 people to view this parade, and they spend money while they're here in New Haven. So not only does this parade benefit us, it benefits the city. So my point is that we still, however, want to be self-sufficient in ourselves and our Black community, and we're not going out begging organizations to help us out. With that said, what was that? Oh, our new president. Yes. She's been on the board for a while. She's been on the board, I think, since 2015 on the parade committee. And she's done excellent. Her name is Chanel Golson. And she's done excellent work prior to that, just as a committee member. She was actually one of the people who was able to do the virtual gala. She did lots and lots of work to get that done, including the ad book, the working with Sandra's restaurant, and just getting the notices out. And she has proven to be dedicated, loyal, and just really wants to get this parade off. And she's much younger than us. So it's something that we can hand off to a younger person. Of course, we don't leave her. We support her in everything she's doing, but she will now be the face of Elm City Freddie Fixer Parade and not Diane and I.
And for you, I'm both interested in how that feels and also in this vision of self-sufficiency, because I know that one of the biggest complaints that I hear from artists is I don't want to say the inverse, but that, in other countries, governments just fund the arts. They put more money into the arts than they do in this country. And I absolutely think of something like the Freddie as arts and culture. Um, so are you saying that you still would like, the city to show up and say, like, yes, here's $50,000 from, especially we're getting all of this American Rescue Plan money, and some of it's coming to the Department of Arts and Culture. It would be my hope that the department spends that money on activities that are oriented towards the community, as opposed to things that, I'm just going to name it, like rich white folks from the shoreline are going to drive into New Haven, do something downtown, and then take themselves
Right.
home.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, like I said, we're not denying anybody to support us. My point is that we still, on our own, need to be self-sufficient. Absolutely. But I will tell you this: I write lots of grants, so I've written lots of grants for a parade. And for some reason, and it's interesting that you said that, a lot of these organizations don't consider our parade an arts and festival. And I don't know why that is, because I've clearly written that we are definitely culturally expressive arts, and you see arts coming down the street, both visually and physically. So I don't know. We've had that difficulty in receiving grants based on the fact that we are a Black parade. So I will put that out there. And yes, we want. Never do we deny money. We want grants from the city or anybody else, from Yale, anybody else who would like to give us grant money.
I think to Patricia's point is we're not just looking for a handout.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to begin, and Dr. Fred Smith probably turning over in his grave 50 times, because when he started Freddie Fixer Parade, it was people that looked like us that was at the table. Now I'm sure the city or some other people may have come in, outsiders may have made donations, and like Patricia said, I'm sure they did not turn those donations down, but it was understood that this was a us thing, and we are going to take this thing and it's going to be us, and we're going to support it. Like I said, if everybody in New Hallville and Dixville, if every family just gave $10 a year toward the Freddie Fixer Parade, you stand on the corner, you watch the parade, and you make a small donation. It may not mount up to be $60,000, $100,000. So what if it mounts up to be 35, 40,000 or whatever it is? At least you're having some buy-in to what you should be buying into, because it's a part of who you are. It's a part of your legacy. It's a part of your neighborhood. It's a part of the history that's here. And trying to get people to buy back into that is the conversation that I had with 2 or 3 younger people that did call me over the last couple of days, all under 30 years of age, saying, I want to be able to tell my children that I worked here with this parade, and I'm trying to continue to build a legacy and uphold this legacy. So there are some people that did reach out that do understand it. They don't look at it as work. One young lady I spoke to, she said she felt as though it was an obligation for her. She said, and just as you, Miss Diane, and the other lady that someone told me used to work for the police department, that's what she said. She said, you guys, you have a certain sense of obligation to this, and you're not getting paid. So, and like she said, if everybody did a little something, the onus of the stress of it being on one person, Patricia and I had to make this decision. It wasn't easy, but we made this decision even after people came after the fact, said, oh, well, we'll help. And we appreciate that, don't get me wrong. But prior to, there was no one there. No one said that we had another alternative. It was made clear to us that this is the way it's going to be. And if you can't do this, then it's not going to happen. So getting people to understand the buy-in for me is very, very, very important because, like I said, if you get buy-in and the community takes buy-in with this and takes this serious, then Patricia and I can turn the helm over. We can turn the baton over to Chanel and a younger group of people from the Black community, and they can take this parade, knowing that there's going to be people, not just Patricia and I, it's going to be a whole community that's going to be with them and lift them up and work with them and help this. Because if not, it's just going to be the same old thing again. One or two people trying to make the work of 50 people happen. And it's not fair because everybody comes out to that parade. Everybody enjoys it. And we see now with all the backlash that the community is given, oh, it's so sad, we don't have a parade. Yes, but maybe, just maybe, if those of you who really like the parade and now are saying that there's certain reasons why, if you come to the table and understand what the facts are and see what it's really like to put a parade on, you'll be surprised. Patricia taught me how to put a parade together, and I had to learn the hard way because somebody dropped the ball 2 months before a parade when I had to get down on the floor and figure out how to do a lineup, because there were some people who said that they were committed and got almost to the end and dropped the ball. So I had to take the ball and roll with it. So I know what that feels like. And I wish I was able to turn around to 5 or 6 other people and say, hey, look, this person didn't do this or do that. Can you work with me to do this? But it wasn't like that. And so people don't know that day of that parade, 2019 parade. Patricia and I, we were smiled. We walked down the street, and I'm not complaining. I'm just giving you the reality. We walked down the street, we smiled, we laughed, we joked, but I'll tell you, we were tired. There's no other way to put it. We were burnt out and we were tired, but we were happy to do it because there was a certain level of commitment there. We did not quit. So we can get other people with that same, even a half of that piece of percentage of commitment, we'll be better off.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, Lucy, that again, and Di mentioned this, this is a volunteer organization. We don't get a dime from this organization to do the things that we're doing here. And that's just fine, because this is what we decided to do to help uplift our community. Because I think what people keep forgetting, especially the Dixwell Avenue community and New Hopeville, it's a community of legends. And it's something that we cannot forget. We have to continue to have that pride about these legends. We're talking about people like the federal judge, Constant Baker Motley, and Supreme Court judge for the state of Connecticut before he was forced to retire because he got too old. I know he's going to kill me on that, but Luby Harper. People like our first Black mayor grew up in the Elm City Projects, John Daniels, our basketball greats. And I'm going to say Tracy Claxton because I'm a female and I like uplifting my Black females, but there were more, and there were more males, but I'm not mentioning them. I'm just going with Tracy Claxton. But I think it's important that people realize that we have all of these people that came out of Dixwell Avenue. And we have that pride, and we have to hold on to that pride, because if we don't, no one else is going to do it for us.
So I agree with all of that. I love that you brought up Judge Constance Baker Motley, because she is on track for a congressional medal, which I'm so proud of right now.
And Judge if I say first name wrong, Ketanji Brown Jackson had the same birthday as
that's meant to be.
Yeah, she had the same birthday. Yeah. So they share the same birthday, and now she's up for the SCOTUS.
That's really beautiful. And I feel like so Gary, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the last name of the professor who wrote one of the first books on Judge Motley. I'm going to look it up as I'm speaking, but he said, her colleagues talked about how she was so before her time in so many ways. And that if it had been a little bit later in history and we'd had the right president at the time, she would have been on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And it was amazing, but also very much overdue that she was on the federal bench before her passing.
And what's really amazing to me, as I hear people talk about this, is that there was never a Black female ever considered for the Supreme Court. I know that President Clinton did interview Barbara Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he didn't interview her. I guess he talked to her about it.
Mm-hmm. He
But
talked to
we
her.
were never considered, even when Reagan was looking for a female, which he said he was going to put a female on the Supreme Court, he never interviewed a Black female. We were never considered as a possibility. And even now, as we're looking at our current nominee, she's going through so much, and she's more experienced than anybody on that board. 2 degrees from Harvard, graduated with honors, and now we hear people like Tucker Carlson say, "I want to see her LSAT scores."
Yeah, no, she can run circles around him. He's just, yeah.
Yeah, right? Are you kidding me? Did you ask
Yeah.
for Brett and Ann's LSAT scores? It's just amazing to me. The thing is, in our Black community, and Diane will tell you this, our parents told us we have to be better than any white person that we're going to compete with. Here's where my frustration is. She is better. You can't get any better. She is the best person in this country, Black, white, or indifferent. And we showed we can be better. Now, what is it that we have to do? Now we're better than you, but you still don't want to give us the opportunity to do what it is that we should be allowed to do. And I'm going to get off of that because you got me going.
No, that's great. And it's I'm going to say, you know, it's always a good time of year to celebrate Black women, but we are in Women's History Month, so go off. I love that. And I did just want to, before I go back to the parade, I did just want to shout out Professor Gary Ford and his mother, Marilyn Ford, who is one of the founders of Quinnipiac Law School. And Dr. Ford, if you happen to be listening, I am so sorry that I briefly forgot your last name. So bringing it back to the parade in the final moments that we have together, I want to talk about what what you and what Ms. Goldson are looking forward to as we move forward. So there's hopefully the gala in September, and I will put my prayers up to the deity that I choose that COVID will stay low, those numbers will stay low. And then on to 2023, which feels far away, but I have a feeling that with the way time moves, it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, exactly. So the gala is definitely scheduled as long as the pandemic. So that's going to go on. And what we're going to do is this every year we honor community members for their work in the community and uplifting the Black community, no matter who they are. This year we're looking to honor community groups as opposed to just the individuals, but the organizations and the groups that have helped uplift the things that are going on. So that's one of the things that we're going to do. And there will be a Freddie Fix-It Parade in 2023. Chanel's going to work very hard on that. We are going to support her on that. We are looking for 50 volunteers because that's what it's going to take. Because as when the parade happens that day, you need to have individuals that are what we call parade marshals that help bring down the divisions of the parade, help organize the beginning of the parade. Heck, it takes like 2 hours to get that parade lined up correctly. And who doesn't like their place and movement, and who we have to tell either you get out of line or go where you're supposed to be or get out of the parade. So there's a lot of stuff that even goes on the day of the parade where we need volunteers.
I want to say, even for individuals who are curious as to how to put a parade together, I learned, Patricia taught me, and I learned while I was hands-on. It was learning. But it's like anything, and once you always learn new things, but once you learn the concept of what it takes to put a parade together, and the weeks leading up to the parade and the months leading up to the parade, I personally, like I said, I'm going to be looking to get younger people, and I would like to probably get some high school students involved, just so they can begin to see what is the process of putting a parade together. And then once people understand what that process is, I think people will have a more of an appreciation for what a parade is when you see that fine. I can't even imagine being on the committee of the New York parade or Philadelphia parade. I mean, I'm just getting a headache just the thought of that, because it's a lot. But again, if you have the volunteers and younger people step up to the plate, and we take the different pieces of the puzzle and all the moving parts, as Patricia would say, if all these different committees play their part and do their part and come together, and we're gonna cuss each other out along the way, we're gonna agree to disagree, but at the end, when you see the parade, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to say, you know what? Like the young lady I spoke to yesterday, she said, Miss Stein, I want to be able to say next year at the end of that parade, I want to be able to look at my daughters and say, Mommy was a part of that. I participated in those meetings. I wrote this, or I did this, or I solicited for people, because you not just have to register people, you have to make sure people are following the rules and the guidelines. You got to lay the parade out. You got to police overtime. You got to make sure you got enough money to pay for that. Um, there's so much to it, but I think if people got involved, in fact, I think that's what ran some people away. Some people thought they wanted to get involved, and they got involved and was like, uh-oh, no, this is just too much. I can't do this, which is not for everybody. But for younger people who are into the arts and into entertainment and those kinds of things, I would personally like to see a group of younger people get involved that work closely with me and Patricia. And like I said, learn the process. And I think people would be not just shocked, but I think people will be pleasantly surprised at what it does take and what you feel like when it's all said and done, when the job is complete.
Yeah. Well, the last question I could talk to both of you for probably 4 hours. And, but the last question I like to ask folks is how they're taking care of themselves and of their hearts. This sounds like it has been a week where maybe some good things have come out of this announcement, but I'm sure it's also been a really hard week that has come in the midst of 2 really hard years that came after a parade that sounds like it left you incredibly exhausted in 2019. So how are both of you taking care of yourselves?
Well, I'll be
Oh,
honest with you.
go ahead, Jack.
I'm in the middle of trying to open up a library. So
That's right. That's right.
I just threw this right in there with the rest of the stress. It's just like trying to I've been working on this to build this new Stetson library for 10 years. I have notes going back 10 years. So now we're slow crawling. We're looking to open up the new Stetson, hopefully March 14th. Hopefully we'll open the doors. But new construction, things happen. You got to wait for this person to do this person to do that. So for me, because of COVID, I spend a lot of time by myself. I'm home, try to go for walks. Patricia and I'm going to share this little funny thing. I want to try to keep it light. So, Patricia ordered us some roller skates. She's probably going to get me after. So Patricia ordered she and I some roller skates. So first she got hers, and then she texted me. This is before all this happened. This was about a month ago, and I was like, "Oh wow, oh I want some," like a little kid. Oh, all right, don't worry about it. I got you. I'll get you some. So she was tired of waiting for the first ones to come in, so she went ahead and ordered. So now there's 2 pairs. But anyway, and then she ordered my helmet. My head was too big for my helmet. So we started talking about how we were going to start roller skating, but it seems like every week we got ready to roller skate, the storm was coming.
Yeah.
It snowed 2 weeks like in a row. Every time we said we were just going to go out on the trail and get a little practice. So I said, oh, well, I guess that our debut got messed up 2 times. So I'm hoping real soon to get on the trail with Patricia and roller skate. That's what I'm hoping to do. And ride my bike, I have to do a little, maybe ride a half a block and stop so I don't faint. But we had just begun to talk about some outdoor activities, if you will. And then this thing kind of hit, but it's okay. Patricia and I have a very good relationship. Like I said, we kind of feed off of one another. Some days she's really, really pissed off, and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And I'll say, no, 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 you can't do that. And then she'll call me, be like, all right, Di, before I say anything, I just want you to be quiet. You can't respond. You can't say anything. I'll be like, oh, Patricia, I'm going to do this. So we're good. We're yin and yang. We kind of play off one another, and we keep each other calm. But I think right now we're both in a halfway good space. We know that there's going to be a parade in 2023. We're looking forward to the gala in September. We're looking forward to the festival in June, on June 4th. And like I said, we're upset a lot, but we laugh a lot. You know, we do laugh a lot. We find humor in things. In fact, the last time I say is, Letitia just said the other day, she said, "Boy, Di, we've been through some shiggity with this parade." She said, we should write a book." And we started, well, I went all the way back when I first called her to be a part of it. And we started going through all the things that we went through with the board, the leadership, the community. And we were like, woo wee. But those are all quiet notes. We won't talk about those.
Yeah. And the other thing, Lucy,
read that book.
The other thing to piggyback on Diane, listen, we're Black. Black in America stress every day of our lives. Honestly, and I don't know how else to say that. We stress every day between the racism, the prejudice, the overt, covert remarks against us. So stress for us, and I know that's not a good thing, and this is why so many of our Black people die from hypertension and high blood pressure, because we've lived with this our whole life. So stress for us is nothing. Yeah. We learned to shake that off because we've had to, even to survive as a people. But I do want to say something about Diane and the Stetson Library, because especially the new development. It's amazing to me that I can go someplace and go into a library, a Black library, and read books from Phyllis Wheatley, Nora Zill Hurston, James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, Octavia Butler, Colson Whitman. Just actually walk in there and those books are on the shelf. And it's something about us, and that will always be us. Because I'm always talking to Diane about the things that we need to have so that the young know what we were and what we are. And I know she's probably going to say something to you, but I yell at her all the time, and it's not even her fault, about how we don't have the same equality that white people have for their books. All we're asking, especially in these libraries and with electronic downloads onto Kindles, we're not asking to have more. We're just asking to be equal. And I think that's what people forget. We don't want any more than anybody else. We just want the same thing you give to somebody else. So when I walk into the library downtown, I can't get that collection of books that I could get on Dixwell Avenue. And why is that? But that's just my thing on that. Now I'm done with it. But I hope everybody shows up June 4th to help celebrate Stetson opening, because that is the most incredible thing for us to even think about having. There are other communities throughout the United States that don't even have that access. We have it right on Dixwell Avenue.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank both of you. I feel like I could have both of you on any time, and it would be an excellent conversation. So Letitia Adger and Diane Brown, thank you both so much for coming on to talk to me about the very rich legacy of the Elm City Freddy Fixer Parade, and also about what we can look forward to. So if you are listening, keep two dates in mind: June 4th and September, is it 12th?
The 11th. Oh, sorry.
10th. It's the 10th. It's the 10th.
September 10th.
Oh, yeah, because it was supposed to be the 11th, right? The 10th. September 10th, the gala at the Omni.
For the gala at the Omni, and June 4th for a celebration on the plaza outside of the Dixwell Community Q House. Thank you both so much. And I know it's cold outside, but enjoy the sunshine. Maybe take a spin on some roller skates. I don't know.
Not yet.
So not quite yet. Yeah, it's like 23. When I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, the sun's out. It's beautiful. And then I looked at the thermostat and it was like 21 degrees. So maybe wait a little minute, but thank you both.
Thank
so
you
much
for having us. We really appreciate it. You know, Lucy, and you said something earlier, but Lucy, you have always supported everything both Diane and I have done, even if it was with the library, with Urban Grants for Us, with Freddy Fixer. And we really appreciate that you always cover us and you always cover our stories.
Yes, agree. Thank you so much.
I appreciate both of you so much. So thank you. And have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.